Atiba Madyun. He's the president and founder of Party Politics US, a public policy consulting firm. You know, we're seeing lots of violent protests around the world at the moment, some of them turning deadly very quickly as well. How do you compare what you see happening in Hong Kong with what we see happening elsewhere?
Well, we continue to see frustration of people, and I feel that people right now they're trying to, I guess, voice their frustration, and it's unfortunate that it's boiled down to this, where we're seeing police officers forced to have to use tactics, or I don't want to say violence, but that's the way that it appears to those from the outside. But they're trying to do what they can to try to maintain some type of restful situation, and it's difficult. They're in a very difficult position.
Do you think that the police have actually been fairly restrained so far in Hong Kong, based on what you've seen on the television?
Well, I think that because it's been going on for so long, it's hard to say that you couldn't expect that the police were going to have to resort to some type of a tactic or some way in terms of trying to squash what's going on. But I think one of the questions is, you know, where's the voice of the people, and what is it that their demands are? Are we hearing that adequately? Is the government hearing that? Are they addressing that?
Well, what do you say to people who put the other side of the same coin, which is to say these protests have been going on for 5 months now?
A great deal of patience.
It's unlikely that that would be allowed in almost any other jurisdiction that you can think of. And they've been ripping up the pavements, and now they're firing bows and arrows at the police and Molotov cocktails. In almost any other jurisdiction, they would be called terrorists, no doubt. How do you answer that question?
Well, we can look at places like Iran right now, where you have spiraling oil prices and people that are protesting that, and it took 3 days, and unfortunately there's killings that are going on that people will blame the police for. You know, if you look at 1968 here in the United States, when after Dr. King was assassinated, there was a lot of mass demonstrations and protests that happened around the country, and there were a lot of, unfortunately, in communities where stores and property was destroyed, but we didn't see it last this long.
Because I think it is fair to say that in modern US history, we have seen things escalate far quicker than we've seen them escalate in Hong Kong. Can you think of some examples? The one that springs to my mind, for example, is Ferguson. That's the one. I was there. I was reporting on that. Things got out of hand when the protest started, really very quickly, with the police firing tear gas.
They were firing tear gas, but I think also the frustration was boiled over because people felt that for too long they had not been listened to. They had not been heard. And it was all stemming from the fact that there was someone who was killed that they felt was unjustly killed. And It was a frustration that you know, we've been hearing this term police brutality. What we talk about here in police brutality in the United States is when we see unarmed men, unarmed women killed by the police, not in these type of protest situations.
Well, with particular reference to what is going on in Hong Kong at the moment, where do you think all of this leads us?
I wish I could tell you.
Well, no, but I mean, I think it's either some kind of heavy-handedness on the behalf of the police, or presumably dialogue.
I think that's really what it's gonna take, maybe a little bit of both, but I think we'll probably see more from the police before we see the dialogue. At least that's the way that it appears right now.
Okay. Atiba Madyun, thank you for joining us. Thank you.